Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending our workshop meeting at the hallowed halls of Prospect Heights at 8 North Elmhurst Road in the city of Prospect Heights. I'm Mayor Nicholas J. Helmer, and we have the council here, and we need to know if we have a quorum. So we're going to go ahead and take a roll call.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Here.
Alderman Dolick.
Here.
Alderman Lovickson.
Here.
Alderman Williamson.
He's running late. I talked to him.
Okay. Alderman Messer.
Okay, we'll catch up with everyone else. Just to start off, Clerk Wendy Morgan has an excused absence, and she'll be back next time. So let's go ahead with who else is with us this evening. Peter?
Peter Falcone, Assistant to City Administrator.
All right, let's back up. I didn't see Mike back there.
Michael Ducharme, Finance Director.
All right.
Dan Peterson, Director of Building and Development.
Joe Wade, City Administrator.
Kevin Carney, City Attorney.
Karen Schulteis, Deputy Clerk.
Al Stuffin, Chief of Police.
All right. You're the most important. City Treasurer. There you go. I was going to say, you're the most important guy we have, our city treasurer, and that watches the money. So thank you. We have a call to order. We have a quorum, and we will ask Peter Falcone to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, if you want to take the approval of minutes, please.
Is there a
Good evening,
move?
sir. Let the record show that Alderman Williamson has joined us.
How are you?
A motion for omnibus acceptance of the May 22nd special council minutes and regular council minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, Joe.
Mr. Mayor, our first item of business is a presentation for City Center Planning presentation by Jim Tenaglia of Tenaglia and Associates. This comes with a recommendation from the Strategic Directions Committee, which has taken a hard look at the possibility of redevelopment within the city center area of Elmhurst Road and Camp McDonald Road. And at that, I'll leave it to Mr. Tenaglia to present what this study and process would undertake.
All right, from our side, who's in charge?
Alderman Rosenthal is the chair of the Strategic Directions Committee.
Wouldn't want to forget his name. All right, Jim, good evening. Thanks for attending.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
For the record and for the cameras here, identify yourself.
Sure.
And what your purpose is here
Sure.
tonight.
Jim Tenaglia, Tenaglia Architects. Sorry you have that ugly picture up there like that. But,
You're
I'm
looking
here
good.
tonight to share thoughts. I've had the pleasure of meeting with yourself, your staff, Alderman Rosenthal, and others over the past. We started this dialogue in April. Again, in May, we've talked about ideas and thoughts of how this process might begin and what we might expect at the end of it. And our goals are to develop a new master plan that is a template, basically, for the entire intersection, the whole area along 83 outside the door here near Camp McDonald Road, basically all the way from Euclid to here and as far north as we decide to take it. And these are schematic plans. The intention is to develop a number of what-if scenarios. If things were looked at as they are right now and were meant to stay the way they are forever and ever, we know what we can expect to happen. But if we look outside the box about the space that we have on our side of the street and beyond, and if some things might consider being moved here or there, what kinds of buildings might they be? Would they be retail? Would they be residential? Would they be multifamily? Would they be multi-story? What would the parking look like? What kind of parking counts can we expect? So our goal is to just think outside the box and develop some schematic plans that at the end of the session, at the end of the day, and this will take months to develop, it's not going to happen overnight, but to have a group agreement that if we can wave a magic wand someday in the future, this concept might be a good solution for Prospect Heights. Now, these things are designed to be in play as this template so that when a developer comes along and says, you know, I want to buy this piece of land and we're going to make this kind of a move and develop this kind of a building here, we can draw on what we learned during this process and say, you know, that's a great idea. That fits exactly with what we were thinking about. Whereas if there was no master plan, we wouldn't necessarily know if that was good or bad or indifferent to the future of this area. So our goal is to sort through all these things ahead of time and have this program in play that as time goes on will actually change. There'll be things that happen over the next 5 or 10 years where we'll revisit this planning, master plan, and say, well, now that we know that this building was built here, and this building maybe was moved here, we're talking about a post office, a police station, a fire station. We know where our village hall is. We know where the retail is. We know where the homes are. We know where certain things are likely to be looked at in the future. But as they happen, we'll adjust. And then at the end of the day, there'll be a new master plan that's created 10 years from now or 15 years from now. So it's a moving target, but this is an opportunity for everyone to get on board with a goal, a long-range goal, as a starting point. So I'm excited about the idea of working with the crew and putting pencil to paper and figuring out what works best for Prospect Heights. And that's where we're at.
Alderman Rosenthal, you take us down a road a piece with the idea and the purpose and the plan.
Pardon me, I didn't hear what you said, man.
I'd like you to take over.
Oh.
You're the chairman.
As was indicated, the SDC, or the Strategic Directions Committee, looked at this, and we got to a point where we said we need a conceptual plan if we're going to do something along the lines or think about a city or town center or whatever we want to call it. The logical place, we initially looked at 2 different locations, and the logical place to begin we felt was in this particular area. I view it as a conceptual plan, something that we can work with, and then as we gain input initially from the council and from staff, as we develop it, once we go beyond that, should be something that we begin to share with the community as well until we get to a point. We first have to get to a point that we have something to share before we can share anything. So this is our first step in it. This is a multi-year process, as I see it. In my line of work, this would be called a conceptual design and moving forward, or a strategic plan which changes. Yep. Best depending upon what the environment, as the environment changes. I think it's something we need rather than sort of working off of our hip and working from year to year or month to month or meeting to meeting. This is something that will give us a roadmap to work with, some guidelines to work on, and really to determine what some of our thoughts are, whether they're even feasible or not in this case. So I would strongly urge my colleagues here on the council to ask their questions, and I would hope that we can take an affirmative vote after the question period going forward.
All right, let's start with Alderman Ludwigson.
Yeah, I was at the meeting when we talked and when we first started discussing this. The only thing I want to point out is this is not a starting point for the city. It's more of just what if somebody comes to us and wants to do something? It's how we figure out how it would fit in. Right. This is not necessarily a city initiative to do anything with this other than to just have a plan that if somebody comes to us, we could show them where they would fit in that plan.
It's a bit of an insurance policy to make sure that
Exactly.
you're not being forced into accepting something that maybe if you thought about it a little bit more, it might not be the right fit.
Right.
So this gives us time to think about things before they even come in. So exactly
Thank you.
correct.
Alderman Dolick?
Thank you. The only thing that I wanted to have everyone keep in mind is that I think this is very much a long-term plan as far as developing something like this. And with that in mind, I don't want it to be one of those issues where we meet month to month for a period of time and then it falls by the wayside. It's something that is going to take a long time to develop, but I think it's something that there could be some great ideas, but I don't want it to see it fall by the wayside, as I said. I want this to continue to be developed and looked at for a long time to come. But like I said, there are some great possibilities here, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Excuse me, Alderman Williamson, please.
I've watched the video, and I saw your initial presentation. Thank you very much. I've also spoken with Alderman Ludvigson and Rosenthal about it. At this time, I really have no questions because everything was covered, so as we move forward, maybe that's when I'll have some additional questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman Laura Messer, please.
I have no comments or questions. Like Scott said, once we get some plans and drawings and stuff to look at, I might have something then, but
All right, Mr. Chairman, you want to tie this together, or you will proceed with your next meeting, which is when?
Well, we on the Strategic Direction Committee, assuming this is the wish of your direction to us, Mayor, and the wish of the council, that we will continue to maintain this on our agenda as the Strategic Directions Committee and sort of be the touchstone contact point as we go forward with it, if that's what you want us to do.
All right. Later on in the meeting, we have a motion to do what?
We have a resolution to approve the agreement. It said,
Okay, and we all have the agreement?
it was in the back.
All right. We also need to hear from our treasurer, Mr. Tibbetts, and also our clerk was not here, so you're last on the list here.
And one question in the proposal, it mentions that the architect has control or ownership of the designs that you produce, and why would that be?
You know, that's actually a little boilerplate. If we do something custom for, you guys will own these afterwards. I will give, I will give you CAD files and PDFs, and you can manipulate them as you need to in the future, yes.
Thank you.
You got it.
So we're looking for a motion later.
You want it now or you want it later?
Well, if we, what's your,
If we want to move ahead to that item, we can do so, Mayor.
all right, well, let's do it now.
Then I would move that we approve the allocation of the funds to begin the project for conceptualization of a town center, city center plan for Prospect Heights.
How
as
much are the
presented.
funds?
And just for clarification, it's 11A, item 11A, R 1706, resolution and agreement for city center planning services with Tenaglia and Associates.
That's what I meant.
I will second whatever you meant.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. I still want to hear the number. There's money involved there.
The amount is $36,000.
All right, everyone's aware of that? We have a motion, we have a second. We need a roll call, please.
Okay. Alderman Ludvigson?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Messer? Aye. Alderman Williamson?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Jim, thank you for coming in, and we're looking forward to great things here.
Thank you. I absolutely look forward to it.
Long time in coming, and I know we can get it done.
Excellent. Thank
Might take
Have a-
20 years, but that's okay.
You know what? It might, but that's
It took
okay.
that long in Mount Prospect, by the way, because that's where I started, so,
We're going to do our best to beat that.
all right.
The impo-
Thank you
the-
so much.
The important thing is make a plan and then work your plan.
You got it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
All right, next we have, by the very famous, and Bree, would you come up too, please? Let's stand up here, I'll come down with you. You know, it's a sad moment when you have to memorialize someone that did such a wonderful job, not only for our city, not there's so little you can do. You can remember her. Darlene Alston is who I'm talking about, by the way. And she is the one that made things happen. She was never bashful. She was never short of words when she had an issue to deal with. And we're proud to have had her as part of our lives. I know she put me in my place sometimes, and it was rightfully done. So if I could, we have the presentation. You'll be delivering it.
Well, I wasn't planning on reading it because it's just a recitation of the things that Darlene worked on, but I had many of the same reactions to Darlene that you did. She was an alderman when I first got elected as state rep for part of Prospect Heights, and she welcomed me and educated me and worked with me, and you know, she could be a little rough around the edges sometimes when she wasn't happy with what you're doing, but if she was happy with what you were doing, she was all for you. And so you always knew where you stood with Darlene, and I appreciated that. I was just really saddened when I had heard at the mayor's breakfast that she had recently passed away, and felt like there was a hole that was being left by Darlene's absence. And so I wanted to, you know, so we adopted a resolution in the Illinois House honoring her, and I wanted to make sure that I can't come to the celebration of life, and so I wanted to make sure that that I was with all of you to recognize Darlene and the great work that she did for Prospect Heights and for Quincy Park and for the airport and so many individuals too, because there was no one that was more passionate about her job and no one more compassionate to the people that she represented and the people that she worked with. So. She's a great lady.
Everybody always talks about how she was an alderman. She was family to me. She was my second mom. Oh, I told myself I wasn't going to do this. It was so sudden, but I'm going to accept this on behalf of her family. She was never about the accolades, never. But she would be humbled by this, and she would be thankful.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
I don't know how I did that.
Yeah, that's a long way
Get over there.
Scott, I want to see you come back up.
Wow.
Spider-Man.
That was something.
Get out of here.
Can you imagine if there was a fire?
All right, okay.
That was.
And I think she would enjoy the laughs we're having too. So, all right, Joe, that being done,
That brings us to item 6, Mayor, appointments, confirmations, and proclamations. And we have two honoring two very dedicated retiring police, Police Corporal Scott Manier and Police Detective Joe Vertone, who've served the city for a long time and really helped our community.
there's some stories you can tell about these two guys.
Well,
But hold them tonight.
Mayor, almost 27 years ago to the day, we stood before the council and were sworn in as the first Prospect Heights police officers. And Scott was there right next to me. And Joe was on the first list and came a short time later from Franklin Park. But, you know, throughout the years, we've fought the good fight. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs. At the same time, we shed a few tears. And I can't tell you how much their retirement is going to leave a huge hole at the police department. And I just want to thank them both personally and on behalf of everybody else in the Prospect Heights for the city of Prospect Heights for everything that they've done and everything that they've contributed over the years. And with that, may I read the proclamations, Mayor? A proclamation in honor of the exceptional public service contributions by Joseph Joe Vertone to the city of Prospect Heights. Whereas the men and women who devote their time and energy as professional law enforcement officers have assumed the responsibilities essential for the safety of their fellow citizens. Whereas Joseph Vertone has been devoted to public service in the city of Prospect Heights since his employment on May 30th, 1991, and has been an exceptional officer and detective. And whereas Joseph Vertone began his career as a patrol officer and then further advanced his career by taking on the additional roles of juvenile officer, breathalyzer operator, defensive tactics instructor, evidence technician, and detective. Whereas Joseph Vertone is a dedicated, hardworking law enforcement professional who during his tenure with the Prospect Heights Police Department excelled in investigative work involving juvenile cases and was part of establishing the peer jury program in Prospect Heights. And whereas Joe Vertone also served as the police department's initial liaison to School District 23, where he taught students and established relationships that have stood strong for over 25 years. And whereas Joseph Vertone has been assigned as a federal task force investigator with the Drug Enforcement Administration, has been responsible for bringing in over $700,000 in federally forfeited seizures to the police department. And whereas as a result of his work with the community and its focus on the community-oriented policing and quality of life issues, the city of Prospect Heights has seen a significant decrease in both serious and nuisance crimes. And whereas Joseph Vertone has served the citizens of Prospect Heights and is retiring from his position as detective, bringing to close a career with the Prospect Heights Police Department that has spanned 26 years, the city of Prospect Heights wishes to honor Joe Vertone for his contributions to the community and thank him for his dedication to the city of Prospect Heights. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Nicholas J. Helmer, Mayor of the City of Prospect Heights, Illinois, acknowledge and commend the contributions that Detective Joe Vertone has made to the staff, council, and citizens of Prospect Heights and the greater community as a whole during successful tenure of service to the City of Prospect Heights, and thank him for his committed service to the community.
Present Joe with a nice crystal dedicated for all his work. Thank you very much.
I don't know, Joe, my big gold watches were in order. I see you get crystals, so that's very nice. Thank you.
Oh, he gets a watch too, Mayor. A proclamation in honor of the exceptional public service contributions by Corporal Scott Minier to the City of Prospect Heights. Whereas the men and women who devote their time and energy as professional law enforcement officers have assumed the responsibilities essential for the safety of their fellow citizens. Whereas Scott Minier was one of the original 17 original members of the Prospect Heights Police Department after its establishment in 1990, after serving previously with the United States Marine Corps. And whereas Scott Minier began his career as a patrol officer and then exercised considerable leadership by becoming an officer in charge and later a corporal. And whereas Scott Minier is a dedicated, hardworking law enforcement professional who during his tenure with the Prospect Heights Police Department also acted in the capacity of watch commander, range officer, breathalyzer operator, and excelled in being a mentor to new police officers. And whereas Scott Minier also volunteered his time to the Prospect Heights community, and as a result of his work with the community and its focus on community-oriented policing and quality of life issues, the City of Prospect Heights has seen a significant decrease in both serious and nuisance crimes. And whereas Scott Minier has served the citizens of Prospect Heights and is now retiring, bringing to a close a career with the Prospect Heights Police Department that has spanned 27 years, the City of Prospect Heights wishes to honor Scott Minier for his contributions to the community and thank him for his dedication to the City of Prospect Heights. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Nicholas J. Helmer, Mayor of the City of Prospect Heights, Illinois, acknowledge and commend the contributions that Scott Minier has made to the staff, council, and citizens of Prospect Heights and the greater community as a whole during his successful tenure of service to the city of Prospect Heights as a police corporal, and to thank him for his committed service to the community.
And here's Scott's.
Before I have you sit down, I want to add one thing. Again, 27 years ago, none of this would be possible without then mayor and current actual commissioner with the Fire and Police Commission, chairman of the commission, Jerry Meyer. And I would like to personally thank you as well for all the work that you did.
Thank you. They, both Scott and Joe are the epitome of what we had a vision for back in 1987 and then back in 1990 when we first started the department. And very proud of you and the rest of the department. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Somebody said.
All right, Mr. Administrator.
The last proclamation is item 6C, proclamation regarding general aviation.
Let me read this, if I might, for the record at least, if not for the crowd that's here. Whereas the city of Prospect Heights and the state of Illinois has a significant interest in the continued vitality of general aviation, aircraft manufacturing, aviation educational institutions, aviation organizations, and community airport, and whereas general aviation and the Chicago Executive Airport have an immense economic impact on the Prospect Heights and surrounding areas, whereas general aviation has not only supported Illinois economy, it has improved the quality of life by supporting emergency medical and health care services, law enforcement, firefighting, disaster relief, and by transporting business travelers to their destinations quickly and safely. And whereas the nation's aviation infrastructure represents an important public benefit and congressional oversight should be in place to ensure that funding for this system remains. Now therefore, I, Nicholas J. Helmer, Mayor of the City of Prospect Heights, do hereby proclaim general aviation a vital strategic resource of the City of Prospect Heights and declare June as the General Aviation Appreciation Month. This will go to the airport. Jamie Abbott will be receiving this, and I think it's, we were recognized as, what was the recognition to the third
Yes, sir.
best
Right.
in the nation, I think it was. It wasn't just the state of Illinois. So I'm sorry no one was here. I don't think we notified them to come. But there it is, and I will present that at the joint meeting of the cities coming up. Thank you.
Brings us to item 7. Are there any citizen concerns or comments?
Yes, there are. Mr. Marius Folta would like to talk about 1300 North Rand Road.
All right, if you would come up, Mr. Folta, identify yourself and tell us what you'd like to talk about.
Good evening, Mayor, City
Good
Council. My name is Mariusz Folta. I live 1225 Stratford Road in Prospect Heights. My concern is I saw that on today's agenda we're going to have a first meeting regarding the liquor license for 1300 Rand Road. And I'm kind of surprised just because I was coming to all the meetings and the applicant was stating that they're going to be open to 12 o'clock. But that on today's agenda is that the liquor license is going to be they're going to allow them to sell their liquor to 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. during the Friday and Saturday. So I'm just trying to find out if they are they get extended hours already, just because as I said, he was saying that they're going to be open only to 12 o'clock. So I hope that they will not going to be open more than 12 o'clock, and they're not going to be selling the liquor after 12 o'clock. Just because, as far as you know, that I already have a problem with the noise coming from the home bar, and if they're going to be selling the liquor to 3 a.m., that it's going to be contributing more to the noise. So I appreciate it. You listen to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. Well,
Yes, sir.
I guess we can comment on it when it comes up, but I think it was just a mistake in the class that they applied for, because the other two locations are Class A, which would be
Right.
midnight during the week and 1 a.m. Friday, Saturday. is
Right,
how the
I
other
think
two
there's also issue, the machines get shut off by the state at midnight.
Well, they're dictated by the license hours. So whatever the hours are is how long
Oh,
the
I-
machines run.
okay.
So I think when that comes up, I don't know, well, I know it's a first reading, but I don't know if they actually applied for the C or if it's just accidentally listed as a C here instead of
All
an
right,
A.
Chief, a question for you. We have, I believe, 10, maybe 11, I don't remember now, of video gaming institutions, either the hotels or the Pennies or this one coming up. Have you had noise complaints typically from any one of those places?
No. We've had one establishment that has had a couple of issues, but it wasn't noise, it was more along with patrons that were disagreeing with the owner. But other than that, no, we've had no issues with any of the video gambling establishments.
All right, we'll look into the hours that were actually noted here. So we can move on. Anyone else, by the way? All right, what's next, Joe? Yes, sir. Yes.
Elsie's is applying for Class C, which is the beer and wine. They do not want the Class A, which is all liquor. So that's, under the liquor code, it is the appropriate class that they're applying for, beer and wine only.
Okay.
Then what it is it's, maybe it's the wrong Class C classification, because we did create one that went to midnight and then 1 a.m., whether it was an A or a C, I don't know, so maybe it's just the wrong.
C3.
C3? And this is a C1?
If I may shed some light on this, that C3 was eliminated because we didn't want any open liquor licenses, so as soon as that liquor license was void, we did remove that from being available.
Right, but.
So we'd have to create, we could create another liquor license that's similar to that, with a limit that goes to midnight.
No, it's not, the license, we never have any open licenses. What it is we amend the ordinance to increase the number of allowed licenses per category every time somebody applies. So, yeah, when that one was taken away, it went away, but that category is still there, and what we're actually doing is amending the ordinance to increase the number of allowed licenses. And that's all we would have to do with this. Actually, that's what this does, except just for the wrong classification.
All right, Joe?
Brings us to item 8, staff, elected officials, and commission reports. Mr. Mayor?
We're getting ready for the 4th of July parade, for one. The 5K run at the airport, everything's in preparation there. It's going to be a great week and weekend of festivities. We will have 2 fire marshals. One of them will be Treasurer Tibbetts, so that will be exciting to see him in his costume of fire marshal. And we're working with a couple of other people. So that's coming along. I really don't, I really can't tell you much more than that. We can move to the next person. Alderman Williamson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments.
Alderman, okay, I'll hold this for my last comment then. Alderman Messer?
I just wanted to comment on the banners that were put up along Milwaukee Avenue. I think they look great. I've received a lot of very pleasant comments about them. Wanted to thank Peter for all the hard work he did in making sure that they got delivered, and our Public Works Department for putting them up, and anyone else that was involved in the process.
All right, Alderman Rosenthal.
This Thursday, the Strategic Directions Committee will meet, and the subject on our agenda for that night is the budgeting process for the city. There's two questions that are going to be addressed. Initially, what we like about the budgeting process at this point, and the second question is what we don't like. Once we, as the committee, come back with our thoughts on this, we'll report this to the council, and then plan to have a meeting with our accounting firm going forward with it, and to get input from the council as to what they may want to see in something like the development or redevelopment, if you will, of the budgeting process. And then I'd like to thank the Public Works Department for their quick response last month to a request that came to the mayor and myself from a Rob Roy resident, where there was difficulty in negotiating the entrances to Rob Roy, both north and south at night, where it was very dark, and they put up some very good reflectors that worked well. And I reported that to the board of directors of the condo association, and they were happy with the results as well.
All right, Alderman Dolick.
Briefly, I just wanted to give a quick word of thanks to everyone who was involved in helping out at the Swank recycling event. Everyone from Deputy Chief Zalaki, Peter Falcone, Marcia Gendris, and a number of volunteers from the police department, as well as Public Works. This is an event that not only brings in people from Prospect Heights, but from surrounding suburbs as well. So it really showed Prospect Heights in a very good light. It went, could not have gone more smoothly. So thank you to everyone who helped out with that. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Patrick.
It's going with the theme of the recognition of the retiring officers. I'd just like to thank the police department for not hearing or seeing anything that would cause us concern, knowing that you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing and doing a really good job at it, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into what they did every day for 27 years to keep us safe and to keep the order in the city, because I know it's not easy, but you guys do a great job. They did a great job, too.
Thank you, Alderman.
Treasurer Tibbetts. I wouldn't miss you for the world. Well, maybe.
So if I'm going to be the fire marshal, do I get to ride on top of a fire truck and spray everybody with water?
Yes.
Oh,
If you
I didn't
fall-
realize that.
if you fall
That's even
off-
better.
If you fall off, it's your problem.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the gesture, and I accept the assignment.
Good.
I'll go for it.
Good.
The other thing I wanted to mention is I thought the community days was well put together. It was nice weather, even though there was rain threatening all week, and I thought that the number of people that came could have been a little bit larger. I don't know whether it was promotion or was it bad timing with the graduations and people starting summer vacations, but nevertheless, the people that came seemed to have a good time, and I had a good time providing music and entertainment for my truck with the sound system and some community day music that I provided. So we'll do that again. Hopefully we'll do some more music at the 4th of July parade somehow or another. I'm not sure how I'll do that as the fire chief, fire marshal. I want Pat, you're laughing. It's really, I think it's parade marshal, isn't it? Or is it?
Parade marshal,
yeah.
yes, that's correct.
So
Thank you.
we won't go with the fire theme, but I appreciate that, and we'll see you on the 4th of July.
Good, looking forward to it.
Trying to put day off.
Yeah. Chief Steffen?
Yes, Mayor. The Community Days was a spectacular event. I think that there was probably the most people I've ever seen at this event, which was a week from this past Saturday, the week before this past Saturday. On Sunday, we had a dozen officers and family members that participated in the torch run for Special Olympics, and we took the torch from Wheeling Police Department at Hinson, Milwaukee, and carried it up to the intersection of Lake Street and Milwaukee, and it was also the most officers that ever participated in that event. I'd like to echo Alderman Dolick's remarks on the Swank operation. Excellent. We all got together beforehand, put together a plan, and from everything that I reviewed, it went off without a hitch. And thank you for your participation as well, Alderman. And on Friday, we have our first outreach trip, which starts with the Government Day, and a bunch of young people from Piper Lane are going to be biking over to the police department, the fire department, and we'll be doing a tour of City Hall, and you're going to be seeing a lot of smiling young faces around here, and we're looking forward to, as this is the kickoff to our full summer outreach program. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, you have the outreach group coming Friday, right?
Yeah.
To my office,
Yes, sir.
and I'll be happy to entertain them for a moment. Before we go ahead with the employees, et cetera, I want to advise you, and I'll start with you, Chief, if I could, that I will be filling 2 vacancies, one in particular, chairman of the board for the Chicago Executive Airport, and the other in particular, the vacancy open for the pension board. And you'll hear from me on the 26th about that. I'm trying to give you a little advance notice. I think there are 2 highly qualified people that I've chosen, and I think we're going to have a lot of good things happen as a result. Jim Brophy resigned from the pension board, and of course the judge that served as the airport chairman went back to his former life for a while, and that'll be exciting for him, and it leaves us with a position that I have the pleasure of being able to fill. All right, moving on. Michael, why don't you give us your first impression? We come right down the line, and everybody gets to talk, so be careful what you say, and don't be too long.
Boy, all I can say is today was my first full day here. I'm excited to be here and more than willing to answer or address any areas of concern or questions you might have related to the village's finances. Thank you.
All right, Peter, are you next?
Sorry.
Yes, sir. No report today, sir.
Just want to report that the building department has had a busy year to date. We're already at almost the same number of building permits issued from January 1 to now than we did all of last year. So we've got a lot of small projects, a lot of homeowners remodeling. So we've got a lot going on out at Quincy Park, and so we've been very busy. And we've had a reprieve with the dry weather on the lawn mowing, but we sent out notices and we're still tracking our enforcement. So we're just busy in the department. Thank you.
Also, Dan, you've in the past reported the income from the permits. Maybe you can give us a synopsis on the 26th.
Will do.
All right, thank you. And we go down to who? Well, Joe is like the chief.
No report, sir, thank you.
He's the chief. I save him for last, 'cause he's got the big bang usually. Let me go to Karen.
Okay. 2 things, Mayor. We have, the parade has a different route. We've been highlighting that. It's going to be in our newsletter. It's already being advertised everywhere. We'll be starting at St. Al's Church, and it's a smaller, shorter route, and we're hoping we're going to get a lot more people who told us before that they couldn't march that long. So we're looking for all kinds of groups that may want to come and participate. Everybody's welcome to participate. Also, we'll be starting at 10:30 as opposed to usually when we start around 9 o'clock. And we have a Tourism District Board special meeting where we hope to amend the bylaws to add the newest hotel as one of the members of the Tourism Board.
That'll be on Friday?
That'll be on Friday.
Good. We need members. All right, city administrator.
No report tonight, sir.
Oh,
Thank
come
you.
on. Say something. Everything's good, right?
Everything is
City of as I call it, City of Prosperous Heights. Okay, what do you got next?
That brings us to, there's no items on the consent agenda. Old business, we have second reading of the ordinance amending Title III Business and License Regulations of the Prospect Heights City Code, and this adopts state laws regarding minimum wage and other benefit provisions.
All right, we have a second reading. Let's have a motion to approve first.
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
Discussion? Anyone? The motion now goes for a roll call.
Alderman Williamson?
Aye.
Alderman Messer?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
To new business, Mr. Mayor, and item 11A has been approved. Item 11B, that's the staff memo and ordinance amending the number of Class C liquor licenses. And staff can review that and discuss it with LCs. Perhaps there is another license that they should be looking at. That's first reading. Item 11C is also first reading, and this is staff memo and ordinance establishing a capital improvement program for the city of Prospect Heights. This had been on an earlier agenda, and council had asked that it be held over pending the start of our new finance management. And Mike Ducharme is here if there are any questions or statements for him. Certainly, as Alderman Rosenthal referenced, this is on the target list for a Strategic Directions Committee review. And if there's anything that you'd like to say about, Mike, about the process, and I know it's your first day in school, but if there are things that you will be looking at as in the first few months of evaluation.
I'm always interested in hearing the opinion of what other people think. In a process that I'm used to when it comes to a 5-year capital improvement program, it is a process that is incorporated along with the budget process. 2 weeks ago, when I attended the meeting and it was discussed very briefly, there were very few items that I noticed on the capital improvement program. One of my fears always as a finance director there are many capital improvements or capital projects out there that maybe there are council members who aren't aware of what all those projects are. Sometimes it's the role of staff in the village or the city administrator to bring an approved budget or capital improvement program or a recommended one to you. But at the same time, we'd like everyone to see all of the needs related to a 5-year capital program, and then allow people to prioritize those projects and move on from there. I'm sure there are many needs out there. There are limited funds. Many times there are projects that appear in a 5-year capital improvement program that at the time it's presented don't have a funding source. That doesn't mean they're not important. The program also doesn't mean that projects can't be reprioritized from year to year. We will look at all those things in an attempt to bring you a capital improvement program along with a complete and thorough operating budget, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. What's next?
Any questions or follow-up?
If I may, I just have one comment. I mean, I welcome your experience and your expertise. You know, the concerns with the capital improvement program we'll be talking about come Thursday. So I think you'll get a lot of feedback then, but I think that it's important that we do address it and we bring some understanding to it, if you will.
Sure.
So, thank you, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, no votes required on those two issues?
No,
What's
sir.
next?
That brings us to item 12, and this is, it's a workshop meeting. We have items listed previously: review of city liquor code, discussion of sanitary sewer rate study, and discussion of city code involving home use occupations and zoning variance applications. And city code, I understand, is still under construction?
The liquor code
Or
or
liquor,
the-
liquor code, I mean. Yeah.
I circulated a draft a few meetings ago, so if there's any feedback on that draft, be happy to incorporate it. Thank you. Just to repeat, I circulated a draft a few meetings ago. If there's any feedback on that draft, I'd be happy to incorporate it, discuss any changes. It was a wholesale revision of the liquor code, so obviously a lot to digest.
Which brings us to item B, discussion of sanitary sewer rate study. And this we've had, in April, we had a town hall meeting at the Park District. It was very well attended. And since then, we've also discussed it at council meetings. Staff is seeking direction as to what the city would like to do with the sanitary sewer system and rates.
Are we discussing this now?
Yes,
May I start, Mayor?
yes, sir.
I believe, to start this out, I think that we had good conversation. I think that we had a good rate study done that was well prepared. I think at the town hall meeting, there was a lot of positive feedback and understanding to what we were trying to accomplish. Before we were to consider selling off a system, we felt it was best that we consider trying to do it ourselves first. And, making sure that we can do it. And by doing it as a city, we'd be able to offer the service to the residents at a lesser rate. I believe the feedback for that has been good. I've heard some feedback of, hey, could we slow the pace and ramp it up? I don't think that that's the best idea. I think that we need to get there in an effort to support the system most immediately. But it's got my support. I think that we should try it on our own. And I think the $20 a month level is a very fair level based on that rate study.
Anyone else?
Yes, I think we have to establish a rate regardless what happens with the sale. I mean, even Illinois American said the sale would take, could take, I think they said as long as 2 years to do. So regardless what happens, we have to establish a rate and get that going, because we're not going to get by on the $650 a month that we have going on right now. So, I think our next step is to establish or adopt the rate as determined by the rate study at option, I think it was 3 or C, I don't remember which it was, the third option, which put it at $20 a month.
Did we get a response on the question, Alderman Ludwigson, that you had, and that is if you stretch out the purchase price of, what, $7 million, I remember, over how long would that last us to buy down the rates? Did we get a response on that?
Yes, he did. It was like 30 years, but there was one mistake with it, is that they didn't establish that the rates would go up. All they did was a differential between the 20 and the 27.50 or whatever it is that they charge. But over time, that 27.50 will become $30, $40, $50, $60. So that wasn't factored into it, but it does buy time. It does buy time, but still that's temporary.
All right, so if the rate goes up, then the value of the years that we would have improvements or non-payments or subsidies, if you will, goes down.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Just
Yes,
a
sir.
comment. At the time, I met with the Board of Trustees at Rob Roy, and there was discussion about that. They had seen some of the information that was out, for whatever it's worth. The unanimous feeling that I came away with from them was we should be in control of our own destiny.
And did you have a big group, or was this
This was the
five
board.
people, or
This
what?
was the board, the condo board. And there was some discussion about it afterwards with some of the residents there.
Okay, anyone else on that issue? If not, let's move on.
Okay, I'll take that as,
Sorry,
ma'am.
I'm late to jump in here. Do we know, I know there's been talk about who's qualified to handle it if we keep it. Do we have anyone in our Public Works Department that's qualified to handle the system? Or if we need to retain an outside company to help us manage it, do we know what that's going to cost us and if that would affect the rates that we would have to charge?
Well, Joe is going through the interview process right now for Public Works, right? Am I right?
For
And you
sup-
may very well find someone that's got some background in what you're referring to.
for superintendent, I think a big part of the presentation made at the town hall meeting was the concern about reinvestment. Reinvestment meaning relining or possible areas where the system has to be reconstructed. Certainly, that would be something that would be a matter of public bid and engineering and so forth. But as far as the cleaning and regular management of the system, we anticipate doing that with the staff that we have.
Joe, may I add to that more directly to answer your question? We're already maintaining it.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
there really isn't a hiccup in the process if we take it over ourselves.
So it's just the major work that might need done, which would be like a one-time thing.
Well, once you get into the televising, then you go from the televising to engineering to an outside firm to do the work. It wouldn't be our guys, breaking up sections of sewer and putting in new sewer. We
Right.
have professionals do that. People
But
who
we've
specialize in
handled
that kind of
day-to-day
work.
maintenance already then.
Right, and the other thing that we have at our disposal is the same consultant that has been working with Old Town Sanitary for, I don't know how long Scott DeGraff has been working with Old Town Sanitary, but many, many years, and he's very, very familiar with the system, and will still be, at our, on call to answer our questions.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Do we, this is more of a point of information. We had some discussion just before about establishing a rate or something like that. Is that coming to us at the next meeting, or should we have some kind of a motion at this meeting making that happen? The $20 rate.
Alderman Ludwigson, what do you think?
Well, I think the direction the staff would be to bring I'm not sure if it'd be an ordinance or a resolution for a fee increase on the sanitary charge. That Kevin would have to tell us which way that would go.
You also have to do the consolidation, don't you? It's kind of a two-part thing. We can't just start charging $20.
That is a part of the rate study, was also to address the 4 special service areas, correct?
Right, and whether you were to consolidate, operate it as a city-owned utility, or if you were to sell it off as to a third-party utility, you still need to consolidate all the systems together.
I think what you're saying is that we have to stop levying the SSA tax after this year, and staff will have to figure out which addresses go to each SSA and what we charge them going forward for that. Because, yes, correct, some of the SSAs are paying, some of them pay $350 a year, $30 or so a month. So staff has to kind of go through and get those addresses, and for the rest of this year, while they're still being taxed for the SSA, make an adjustment, and that should be part of the resolution or ordinance, whatever it is, that those addresses specifically will have a different rate for the rest of this year.
That's
There's no-
exactly what I was saying.
There's no consolidation, but just a rate
Oh,
structure.
I mean, that automatically consolidates.
Right.
So the answer to my question is?
Well, you can't have a motion tonight, it's not on the agenda.
I think we just have,
We're going to have the resolution or whatever.
there's direction to staff to prepare any sort of documents that are necessary to wind down the SSAs and set the new rates for the coming year.
Is that a resolution or a ordinance?
Which one, the rates or the wind down of the SSAs?
Well, the rate will be the winding down. Well, we'll just not levy in the future for the taxes, but I think we'll have to have a fee schedule for this first year that would be different than after this year, where we'd have SSA 1 through 4 having a different rate but is that done by, because otherwise it's going to take, okay, so it could be
It
done
would
in one
adopt a
meeting.
rate schedule.
It could be done in one meeting, because I know coming up, you have the next quarter's billing going out very soon.
But only for those who are currently on Old Town. For all the SSAs, do they keep paying into the SSA until May of next year?
Some of them, because some of them are higher than the $20. That's going to take that's our finance director's going to have to create some spreadsheets on how we figure that out. Because right now it's based on EAV, it's going to be complicated. And at some point, maybe what it is next year we just do some kind of refunding. Once we know what the rate is.
Did our old finance director not already have this prepared?
I don't think so.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought we were ready to go.
So is that going to come to us next meeting, or?
Yeah, well, I think you need to get the ball rolling.
We'll start working on it immediately. I don't know if we'll have it within 10 days for the council packet, but we'll get to work on it. We have a sense of the direction as a $20 rate, and also to recognize and make adjustments for the special service areas.
All right. All right, let's move on to item 12C, discussion of city code involving home use, occupation, and zoning variance applications. Alderman Williamson. Alderman Williamson, I think you wanted this on the agenda.
The home occupation, commercial vehicle discussion, moving forward.
So item C, 12C.
Sorry, my item 12C is different than your item 12C. I've been talking with Building Director Peterson, and we've been talking about property maintenance and how it, other things affect it as well. And lately, as you drive around town, you're seeing work vans with a lot of signage. They're getting bigger. They're to the point of cube vans, deplated trucks, and a lot of things that are out in the open. They're not set back in a side yard. They're not shielded by any landscaping or anything like that. So I think that is kind of taking away from the property values, and I'd like to see us do something to address it. I mean, recently, there's tow trucks parking in driveways, parking in front of homes with cars on them. There are box trucks that are parking in driveways right off of main thoroughfares. So I wanted to bring this to council to have a discussion and see, what are your thoughts? Because I'm certainly one opinion.
Well, I can answer from my perspective. I've got a box van a block away from my house, parked there all the time.
Yep.
However, he does not have a D plate, and Mike Przicki tells me that would be a no-no, to keep the truck there overnight. This gentleman parks it on Saturdays and Sundays out on the street, but he's got a regular car license plate. I checked with Dan, and Dan, you explained
Um,
that.
Yeah, part of the issue that comes up is trying to distinguish between what is home occupation versus commercial vehicle parking. And basically, the regulations that cover in our zoning code are the additional parking regulations. And under our current ordinance, commercial vehicles up to 12,000 pounds, one can be parked on a driveway, all others have to be fully enclosed within a garage or effectively screened from the public view. So our parking regulations address those cars, and our code is silent on whether there's signage on it, whether there's,
I hate to interrupt, I'm going to though. I disagree. Okay, it is very black and white in that code in which it says any work-related vehicle is to be housed within a garage or is to be out of view of anyone, any neighbor. So once that truck is parked in the garage or in the driveway and you can see it, it's not shielded, all of a sudden it's somebody else's business too. It's a visible home business.
an individual working for ABC Mechanical who doesn't own ABC Mechanical but is given a D-plated work truck, commercial truck to come home, does not have under the definition of our home occupation code, a home occupation. It's a commercial vehicle which they're entitled to have on the law under the parking regulations.
But shielded, correct?
What?
Shielded.
You can have one vehicle per our parking regulations up to 12,000 pounds on the parking surfaces. Everything else has to be screened. The secondary ones have to be screened, but the way it's written, it doesn't talk about whether there's signage on it, whether or not, it's only the classification of plate. Additionally, under the home occupation, when it says it must be conducted entirely within the dwelling or the garage by the resident member, well, is that truck related to a home occupation, or is it just a vehicle assigned to somebody who works for somebody else? And that's the difficult point in which to make a determination on the code. So I'm looking for clarification on which direction we go, and if there's an issue related to the size of trucks, we can look at addressing the size of trucks. If it's looking at the markings of vehicles and what constitutes a commercial vehicle or non-commercial, and then the hardest part of this all, in my opinion, from enforcing zoning ordinances for almost 20 years, is determining home occupations, because we don't have a really good registration program or a licensing program. So when we get these complaints, they're hard to address, hard to investigate, due to the nature of the type of occupations that it is and types of structures. And I understand the issues, and we've been looking at trying to keep them screened, trying to keep them regulated, but it's very difficult, as you and I have talked about.
I guess my point is, if you have 4 houses and all, in the corners, and this guy has a home occupation or has a truck that he takes home, these 3 homes don't have to be part of that business. Okay, they didn't move there to be part of ABC Mechanical. They moved there to be in a residential neighborhood. And all of a sudden, you've taken your residential district and you've made it somewhat of a commercial district because there's commercial vehicles there. I don't know if we can cite specific examples. You and I have already talked about, a application that's for the PZBA. Can we talk about specific examples or not?
No. At that point in one time, I'd leave that on for another discussion.
Private, but I guess my point is, not everybody has to sit there and look at the snowplow across the street. Not everybody has to sit there and look at the box truck across the street. And as you were saying, Mayor, your neighbor, he's got this box truck, and I've seen it. He moves it every morning and every night. Puts a bucket at the end of his driveway, and, it's an eyesore. Okay? Everything else about that guy's house is absolutely impeccable.
He shines rocks with a toothbrush.
I know.
Literally, he's just
it's
incredibly
beautiful.
impeccable. Yeah, he keeps his house very nice.
But I guess that's my point is, because one guy has this truck, 4 other guys don't necessarily need to live with it. And it's a growing problem. If it was the same as what it was when I moved here, it wouldn't have resonated with me. But the problem grows. The trucks get bigger. The van became a sprint van, you know, and they get taller and wider. And all of a sudden, you know, there's a house that's got 4 cars in one driveway and a second driveway with a new garage that's full of stuff and 2 work trucks out on the side. Well, we all have to live with that. I don't think that we need to live with that home-based business that is outside of those 4 walls, as it states in the code. You know, it should be shielded.
Dan, can we, excuse me for interrupting, Alderman, but can we get you and Mike Persicki together, and if you have some specific addresses, like I'm sure Alderman Williamson does, and I can contribute too, you know, go take a look and see if there's anything coming in. I understand you've got a vehicle question, you got a home business question, and what do? You got a vehicle parked with ABC Plumbing on it, so what do? You go in and knock on a door and say, hey, let me inspect your home to see what you're doing in there. I don't know the answers, by the way.
The approach that we've been taking, so everybody fully understands, is that when we observe these vehicles and if there's more than one, we do state that you have to get the second one screened. You do have to properly, and there's specifications in which we follow, and we get some cooperation, but we also have other guys that, you know, they bring their plate home, they're entitled to have the B plate, and it parks there, and then they go. So that's, you know, and it's, from a staff perspective, I'm just looking at direction. Is this consensus of everybody on the board to continue to move forward and pursue it or not? And then bring Mike in, we'll bring addresses, we'll go through other examples, but just to let you know, that's one of the questions was.
Sure.
And
It's a time-consuming thing also. Well, let me ask Alderman to finish, and then you're next.
Sir, and I don't want to take anything away from Dan. Dan and I have spoken at length, and Dan has done everything within Dan's power today that he can to enforce it. However, the way it reads doesn't allow us to take it any further. It doesn't allow us to address the steps that have been taken when trucks got bigger, or, you know, the snowplow that's sitting in a driveway at a home-based landscaping company, or the truck that sits in the driveway for a carpentry company. So I guess what we're looking for here is, I guess what I'm looking for is to explain to council that I see a real issue here, and, you know, is this something that we could pursue making changes to our existing code to address it?
Well, I can tell you there are at least 3 trucks on Willow, but none of them have D plates. So Mike says D plates is what I'm looking for, and I'll take care of it. So I don't know.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, do we change that so it's not just a D plate? That's what's written in there.
Maybe advertising, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've discussed this with Dan, and the home occupation section would be harder to enforce. Any changes that would procure the results you're looking for would have to come from the additional parking regulations section. Just even if you eliminated the ability to park a commercial vehicle in a non-garage spot, and you made them garaged, I think that's something you're gonna have to look at rather than enforcing through the home occupation section.
You brought it up.
Can I go?
We'll look into it. Say yes, Dan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I think your key is, you know, Persicki, he's on the street. He's your resource. Maybe you can bring something back at the next council meeting.
If the other council members could please, you know, talk to Dan about it, sorry, you want to talk, but if they could give Dan their, you know, opinions of it. Like I said, I'm one person, and he can't just take, you know, direction from one guy.
Oh, but you're talking about a code, you're talking about parking restrictions, you're talking about home occupation. That is his department. And
right.
Anybody can bring those issues up. As far as acting on those issues, then you're correct. I mean, everybody should be involved. All right, yes, Alderman Messer.
First, I support it being looked into. corrected. I personally live in a condo complex, and it's private property, and you're not allowed to have the vehicles up in the front. So, I mean, we don't have garages or that capability, but I think it kind of goes in line with what you're looking to achieve. Also, I think that the way the ordinance currently reads, it contradicts itself because it does, say that vehicles may be parked in the open under the following conditions. And then one of the conditions is that such above-mentioned vehicles must be screened. So now you're saying you can park in the open under the condition that it's screened. Kind of contradiction in and of itself, but if you're saying that that's a condition, then I think we could kind of enforce that somewhat the way it is now, even before we get to the point of changing it. Yeah, I mean, we can clarify, but I would say since that's a condition of it being in the open, is that it's screened, that you probably could start to enforce that.
That's where we hang our hat presently, as much as possible.
You know, there's other cities you can talk to. You've got the guy on Euclid, right across from the assisted living place, basically. He's got a Greyhound bus right next to his house. It's not screened. So, I mean, there's other things you can look into and see what other people are doing. All right, anyone else?
I would support, where I am, we have a law against it, a rule against it too. Commercial vehicles overnight and even overnight on driveways. But I would support this. I think what we really need to do is just come up with something that allows staff to execute and enforce a regulation. It seems like we're talking about different things and different exceptions, and then it starts to get complicated and we get tied up in knots. And I would like, hopefully we can bring, something can be brought forward here that we can act upon.
I think in my conversations with Dan, I mean, I'm not trying to be unreasonable by any stretch. It's just, the problem has grown. So it's time to reel it back in. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to put the kibosh on everybody.
You know, from personal aesthetics, I would agree, Scott. It's not what a residential neighborhood should have in it, other than trucks that are there temporarily for repair or whatever that they're doing in the house. That would be an exception. But I would agree with you, having them permanently parked there does detract from the neighborhood, and it gives a wrong impression, I would suspect, to prospective buyers in that neighborhood.
All right, if I could cut in, we've had a discussion, and it hasn't been too long yet, but it's starting to get lengthy. So I'd like to move on to the approval of the warrants. I believe that's you.
Yep. Okay, we have a total of $489,121.73. Wire payments, we have May 26, 2017 payroll, $145,692.90. June 2nd payroll posting of $2,422.16 for a total warrant of $637,236.79.
Motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second, please. We have a second. Any further discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Messer?
Aye.
Alderman Williamson?
Motion passes 5-0. Joe, we're moving on to 14.
Yes, sir. Any resident comments, non-agenda matters?
There were no comments.
No comments. We do have a request for executive session tonight, Mayor, regarding sale of property and personnel matters.
All right, so we're going to adjourn this meeting. Plan is not to come back for any action, and we are going to vote to go into executive session for the following purposes. Sales of property.
The setting of price for
Personnel.
sale of property
Okay.
owned by the city and pending litigation.
All right, personnel matters too. Or is that part of pending litigation?
I'm not sure.
All right, we'll call them for both.
Okay.
We don't have to talk about what we.
Correct.
Okay. Review of,
I move that we go into executive session for the statements that were listed, for the reasons that were listed.
Okay, that's a roll call.
yes.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Messer?
Aye.
And Alderman Williamson.
Motion passes 5-0 for all the customers that are attending tonight. We will not take any action when we're done with executive.